I want to start today by putting a very uncomfortable question on the table.
Okay.
It's one of those questions that, usually hits you at 3 a.m. when you can't sleep.
Oh, I know this question.
Yeah.
The ceiling fan is spinning and you realize you're just a biological machine.
Exactly. You're just meat and electricity.
Yeah.
And the question is, what actually makes you
Mm.
you?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean your job or, your personality traits or your history. I mean, what is the thing that makes you distinct from the rest of the universe?
It's the ultimate anchor point, isn't it? I mean, if we don't know what you is, we can't really know what happens to you when the biology just stops working.
Exactly. And usually when we talk about this, we get stuck in one of two camps. You have the materialists who say you are your brain. When the neurons stop firing, the lights go out. End of story.
Right. The hardware shuts down, the software's gone.
And then you have the vague spiritualists who say you're a spirit, a ghost in the machine, and you just sort of float away.
But today, we are looking at a stack of sources, specifically papers 111 and 112 from the Urantia book, that claims, well, that both of those views are pretty simplistic.
Simplistic is a polite way to put it.
It is. This source material treats the concept of identity and personality with a level of technical precision that is, frankly, startling.
It really is. It doesn't read like a religious text. It reads like an engineering manual for a piece of cosmic software called the soul.
That's a great way to put it. I have to admit, when I first opened this file, I expected, harp music and
Oh,
clouds.
me too. Instead, I got diagrams of cosmic looms and dimensions of personality and Morantia mathematics. It feels like a physics textbook written by angels.
That's a very apt description. The Urantia book presents this incredibly high-concept cosmological framework. It's dense, it's complex, and it claims to explain the mechanics of survival.
Not just the hope of it, not just a belief.
No, the actual machinery, the nuts and bolts of how you get from here to eternity.
So here is our mission for this deep dive. We are going to try and decode this text. We're going to figure out what it means when it says personality is the only changeless reality in the entire universe.
Which is a huge claim.
It's massive.
Yeah.
And we're going to look at the machinery of the soul because apparently it's something we're building right now, brick by brick, with every choice we make.
And then we're going to map it out. We're going to follow the breadcrumbs from the moment of death, step by step, to the moment you wake up on the other side.
And just to set the stakes, this isn't about whether you are a good person in some, general sense. This is about whether you have constructed a vehicle capable of making the transit.
That sounds a little ominous.
It's physics. I mean, if you don't build a bridge, you can't cross the river. It's not a punishment. It's just cause and effect. Okay, let's get into the definition of you, because the text makes a distinction right out of the gate that I found, well, honestly, pretty confusing at first. It separates personality with a capital P from everything else. I always thought my personality was my mind, my humor, my grumpiness, my memories, all that stuff.
That's the common usage, sure. We say someone has a great personality or a toxic personality, and we're talking about their behavioral traits.
But that's not what this text means.
Not at all. The Urantia book uses the word personality to mean something entirely different, something much more fundamental. It defines personality as the unifier.
Unifier. Okay, break that down for me. What is it unifying?
Think about the components that make up a human being, at least according to this text. You have physical body, right? An electrochemical mechanism.
Yeah, the meat and electricity part.
Then you have a mind, which is the instrument that thinks, that processes data. And then you have a spirit, which we will definitely get to later, that indwells the mind.
Okay, so 3 separate systems: body, mind, spirit.
And left to their own devices, they might not even get along.
My body certainly doesn't always get along with my mind. My mind says, get up and work, and my body says, no, let's take a nap and eat a pizza.
Exactly. That's the conflict right there. So what holds them all together? What makes the body, the mind, and the spirit function as a single identifiable entity named you?
The personality.
The text says that is personality. It's a unique gift from what it calls the universal father, the ultimate source of all things, that acts as the gravity for your identity. It holds all the parts in their proper orbit.
So it's the glue.
I'd say it's more active than glue. Glue is passive. It just sticks things together.
Yeah.
Personality is creative. It's Okay, let's try that movie analogy from the outline, but let's really dig into it.
I'm listening.
Imagine a film set. You have the camera equipment. That's your body, the hardware. You have the script. That's your genetic code and your environmental programming. You have the actors. Those are your emotions, your drives, your thoughts.
Okay. And the film stock itself is maybe your memory.
Perfect. You can have all those things in a big pile on the studio floor, but you don't have a movie yet.
You just have expensive junk. A mess.
Exactly. You need a director. Now, the director doesn't appear on screen. You never see them. But the director's vision is what unifies the script, the actors, the camera angles, the lighting. It turns the pile of junk into a cohesive story.
And a great director has a specific style.
That's the key part. A unique style. You can watch 10 minutes of a movie and say, that's a Tarantino film or that's a Spielberg film, even if the plot is totally different from their other work. There's an unmistakable quality.
Okay, I see where you're going. The personality is the director. It's not any one part of the movie, but it's the unique flavor, the artistic style that permeates the whole production.
Precisely. And this leads to the text's most paradoxical and probably most important statement. Personality is changeless in the presence of change.
Which, frankly, sounds like one of those Zen koans that doesn't really mean anything. How can I be changeless? I am a completely different person than I was at age 5.
Are you?
Well, yeah. My cells are different, my beliefs are totally different, my memories have changed. If everything changes, where is the changeless part?
That's the magic trick. The you at age 5, the observer behind the eyes watching the world go by, is the same you observing the world right now. The equipment has changed, absolutely. The script has been rewritten a dozen times. The main actor has aged. But the director, the locus of identity, the point of view is absolute. It is the static point around which the wheel of your life turns.
So if my personality changed every time my body or mind changed,
You would literally be a different person every morning. You would have no continuity of identity. You couldn't say, I remember my childhood, because I, doing the remembering, wouldn't be the same one that had the childhood.
so personality is the thing that allows me to say I used to be a child and know that the I is the connecting thread through all of it.
Yes. And the text really emphasizes that this personality is not something you earned, and it's not something you develop through effort. It was bestowed upon you. It's a gift. And it is, and this is a weird term, non-addable.
Non-addable. That sounds like math.
It is cosmic math. The text insists that God doesn't create people by taking, 10% humor, 20% intelligence, and 5% anxiety and mixing them together in a cosmic bowl.
It's not how it works.
No. Personality is not an aggregate of traits. It is a unique, original, indivisible value. There are no duplicates.
Wait, really? No duplicates in the entire history of the universe?
Never. The text is absolutely adamant about this. You are an absolute original. Even if you have an identical twin, same DNA, same environment, same upbringing, you have distinct, unique personalities. You are not a copy of anything.
But doesn't that make it, well, kind of lonely?
Yeah.
If I am totally fundamentally unique and no one else is exactly like me, can anyone ever truly understand me?
That's a really profound clue. I think the text would argue that this uniqueness is actually what makes unity and true community possible.
How so?
If we were all the same, there would be no harmony, just unison, a boring single note. But because we are all unique notes, we can fit together to create a symphony. You occupy a specific coordinate in the cosmos that, if you were gone, would remain empty forever. No one else can fill your spot.
That's a heavy thought. It implies a kind of responsibility to be that person, to express that unique note.
It does. And speaking of coordinates, we have to talk about the dimensions of personality. This is where the text gets really technical, and I think a lot of people just sort of glaze over here, but it's absolutely crucial to understanding the human condition.
Yeah, I saw that. It assigns length, vertical depth, and breadth to personality, which I have to say feels like we are measuring a shipping container, not a soul.
It does sound strange, but it's metaphysical geometry. They're trying to describe the functional range of a human being, the different directions we're pulled in. Let's break them down, because this explains that internal conflict we all feel.
Okay, let's start with length. What is the length of a personality?
The text says the length of personality represents your direction and your evolution. It is your capacity to progress. It's the part of you that isn't satisfied with just being, but constantly wants to become.
So ambition, like setting goals.
Deeper than just career goals or wanting a new car, it's the teleological drive, the drive to move from the imperfect toward the perfect. It's the reason you feel stagnant and depressed if you aren't learning or growing. That's your length dimension stretching out toward the future, toward God.
Okay, so that's the upward and forward pull. What about vertical depth? This one sounds like the basement.
It is the basement, and it's also the foundation. Vertical depth represents your organismal drives. It's your biology, your hunger, your survival instincts, your sexual drive, your fear response. It is the part of you that reaches down into the soil of the material animal world.
So my length wants to be a saint and meditate on truth, and my depth wants a cheeseburger and a nap.
Exactly. And that tension is the human experience. That's not a flaw in the system. That is the system. But then you have the third dimension, which is the key to managing that tension: breadth.
The what?
Breadth is your capacity for insight, coordination, and relationship. It's the ability to look at the length, your spiritual urge, and the depth, your material needs, and bridge them. It's the part of you that finds meaning and makes wise choices.
So a fully dimensional, a healthy personality is one that balances all three, one that has a lot of breadth.
Correct. If you have only depth, you're basically just a clever animal living for survival and gratification. If you have only length, you're a fanatic or a dreamer with no grounding in reality. Breadth is the wisdom that coordinates the two. The text says personality has position status and value status in the universe. You are literally a geometric object in the spiritual landscape.
This helps explain why we feel so pulled apart sometimes. It's not that we're broken or failing, it's that we are designed to be stretching in three different dimensions at once.
We are designed to span the gap between the finite and the infinite. That is inevitably going to cause some structural stress on the system.
Okay, so I have this unique personality, the director. And the director is currently operating a set of equipment called the human being.
A temporary loaner vehicle.
But the text says this equipment is temporary, and we need to build a new vehicle if we want to continue the movie after this set burns down.
Right. And this brings us to what the text calls the architecture of the soul. And this is the part where the source material radically departs from almost all standard theology.
Most people, I think, assume you are born with a soul. It's standard issue equipment, like airbags in a car. It's just there.
The Urantia Book says, no, you are born with a capacity for a soul. You are born with the potential for a soul, but the soul itself, you have to build it. It is an evolutionary acquisition.
It's a DIY project.
It is the ultimate DIY project, and the text gives us the recipe, the instructions. It describes the mind as a cosmic loom.
A loom. I like that image. It's active. We are weaving something.
The mind is the mechanism, the machine, but a loom needs thread, and it needs a pattern to follow. The text says there is a divine spirit, which it calls the thought adjuster, that provides the spiritual pattern. That's the thread of high value of truth, beauty, and goodness.
So you have the loom, which is the mind, and the thread, which is the spirit. But a loom doesn't run itself. Something has to operate it.
Exactly. The catalyst, the energy that moves the shuttle back and forth across the loom, is your free will choice.
This is the crucial part. It's not just about having the parts. It's what I do with them that matters.
Every single time you make a moral choice, and I don't mean choosing vanilla over chocolate, I mean choosing unselfishness over selfishness or truth over convenience, you are weaving a thread. You are literally creating a new substance.
A new substance.
Yeah.
Not just a good thought, but a thing.
An actual substance. The text calls it Urantia.
We need to stop on this word, Urantia. It sounds like a planet from a sci-fi movie. What is it?
It is a specific technical term in this cosmology. So we live in a material universe made of matter and energy. God, the source, lives in a purely spiritual universe. Urantia is the bridge realm. It is the middle state between matter and spirit.
Give me an analogy, because middle state is still pretty vague.
Think of an amphibian. A tadpole lives only in water, a purely aquatic environment. A frog lives on land. But the frog still has moist skin. It's a bridge creature, perfectly adapted for the transition between the two realms.
Okay, that helps.
Or think of a deep-sea diver's suit. It's made of material, but it's designed to allow a surface dweller, an air breather, to exist in a completely different pressure zone, a different environment. The soul is a Urantia vehicle. It is substantial enough to hold your identity, but spiritual enough to survive the death of the physical body.
So when I make a choice to be kind instead of cruel, I am literally synthesizing a molecule of this Urantia fabric.
Yes. The text calls the soul the joint child of the human mind and the divine spirit. It has traits of both parents. It remembers the human life, but it values the divine goals. It's the offspring of your choices.
The text references the ancient Egyptians here, doesn't it? Something about the Ka and the Ba.
It does. It actually validates that the Egyptians had a huge insight into this. They knew there was a dual nature to man. They called it the Ka, which was sort of the life force, and the Ba, which was more like the soul.
And the Chinese had yin and yang.
Right. The authors are pointing out that humanity has always sensed this. We feel like we are two things at once, a material creature reaching for something spiritual.
But the Egyptians missed the twist.
They missed the evolutionary aspect. They thought you just had these things as part of your makeup. The Urantia Book's radical claim is that you are actively growing the soul. And that, of course, implies a terrifying possibility.
The possibility that you don't,
Yeah.
that you fail to grow it.
Survival is volitional. It's a choice. The text even uses the phrase, survival of the fittest. But it completely redefines fittest to mean those who choose supreme values, those who align with truth, beauty, and goodness.
So what happens if I don't? What if I spend my entire life rejecting every spiritual impulse, just hurting people, being purely selfish, and identifying completely with my animal nature?
Then you are operating the loom, but you aren't using the divine thread. You are weaving nothing but air.
And when I die, what happens to the empty loom?
This is where the concept of personality extinction comes in. The text is very clear and very sobering about this. If there is no soul, no Urantia vehicle, there's nothing to carry the personality to the next stage. The director has no film, no new set to go to.
Is that hell?
No, not in the traditional sense. Hell implies consciousness and eternal suffering. This is cessation. The text says the personality is absorbed back into the supreme.
We need to define the supreme here, because that sounds a little confusing in the text. Is the supreme just another word for God?
Not exactly. In this cosmology, the supreme being is the evolving deity of experience. Think of the supreme as the cosmic container for all the growth, all the experience, and all the value generated in time and space. Nothing valuable is ever truly lost.
So if a personality goes extinct,
The potential they had, the energy of their life, the experiences they had, anything of value returns to the supreme. It's recycled into the cosmic whole. But the unique identity, the I, is gone.
it's like formatting a hard drive. The data is wiped, and the space is reclaimed for future use.
That's a perfect modern analogy. The identity ceases to exist as if it had never been. It's cosmic deletion.
You know, that is infinitely scarier to me than fire and brimstone, the idea of just not being.
Yeah.
Of being an error message that gets deleted.
It should be scary. It raises the stakes of our daily lives enormously. But the text is also very reassuring on this point. It says this only happens if you deliberately and persistently reject all truth and goodness.
So you don't lose your soul by accident.
No. You don't lose it because you had a bad day, or made a string of mistakes, or struggled with addiction. It requires a conscious, final, and total rejection of the divine. You practically have to apply for extinction.
Okay, so it's not a trap. It's a choice. Respect it to its final, bitter end.
It's the ultimate respect for free will. If you truly, deeply do not want to exist in a spiritual universe, God will not force you to.
So assuming we're building this soul, that we are making the choice for survival, we aren't doing it alone. We mentioned the thread provider. The text calls this the thought adjuster.
The thought adjuster, also called the mystery monitor. This is, without a doubt, the most radical and profound concept in the entire book.
It's a big one.
It claims that the universal Father God himself fragments himself. He breaks off pre-personal pieces of his own spirit to come and live inside the minds of mortal human beings.
Okay, hang on. Pre-personal, what does that mean?
It means the adjuster has identity, it has volition, it has pure spirit status, but it doesn't have a distinct personality in the way we do. It is pure deity essence. And its entire mission is to find a human personality to fuse with and co-create an eternal future.
So there's a literal fragment of God living in my head.
The text says it indwells the mind of mortal man. And the analogy it uses to explain this relationship is brilliant. The ship, the captain, and the pilot.
I love this analogy, but I want to push back on it a bit because I think it can be misunderstood. So let's lay it out. The mind is the ship,
Correct. It's the vessel navigating the chaotic waters of life.
and I the personality and the captain.
You stand on the bridge. You are in command. You give the orders.
And the adjuster is the pilot. Now, this is the tricky part. Usually when a harbor pilot comes on board a ship, they take the wheel, they shove the captain aside and say, I know these waters, let me drive.
That's how a human pilot works, yes. But a divine pilot works differently. The adjuster knows the way to the harbor of eternity. It knows exactly how to get you to your destination. But, and this is the absolute key to everything, it will never touch the wheel unless the captain authorizes it.
That's the friction point. That explains so much. If I have a piece of God in my mind, why am I so anxious? Why do I still make bad choices? Why doesn't the pilot just take over and save me from myself?
Because if the pilot took over, you would cease to be a free creature. You would become a puppet. an automaton. God doesn't want puppets. He wants sons and daughters. And love, true partnership, cannot be coerced.
So the pilot just stands there silently next to the wheel.
Silently, constantly, gently adjusting your thoughts, giving you a nudge towards the right course, presenting a better idea, highlighting a more loving path, but never ever forcing your hand. The final decision is always yours.
That's silence. That's the hard part. The text talks about how hard the adjuster works to communicate, but the animal noise of our minds, our fear and ego, just drowns it out.
The adjuster speaks in a still, small voice. Our minds are screaming with fear, ego, desire, and distraction. It's like the pilot is whispering the coordinates and we are blasting heavy metal music on the bridge and wondering why we can't hear anything.
But the pilot is doing something else too, something crucial for our survival. The text says the adjuster is making transcripts.
Yes. Think of this as the cloud backup of your identity. It's the fail-safe.
Okay, break down the tech on this for me.
The adjuster cannot save your physical brain. That's going to decay. It cannot save the electrical patterns of your mortal mind because that dissolves when the brain dies.
So my memories are gone.
The physical record is. But the adjuster can create a spiritual duplicate, a Urantia transcript, of every memory, every insight, every beautiful moment, and every experience that has survival value.
Survival value, that's a filter. It's not saving everything.
It's a very strict filter. The adjuster doesn't back up your grocery list. It doesn't back up the time you spent scrolling social media for 3 hours. It backs up the moments where you loved, where you learned, where you made a sacrifice, where you suffered and grew from it. It preserves the meaning of your life, not just the raw data.
So if I get dementia or have a brain injury and I lose my memories on Earth,
The adjuster has the backup. The safe copy is on the divine hard drive. Nothing real is ever lost. The person is still whole.
that is an incredibly comforting thought, especially for anyone who has watched a loved one lose their cognitive faculties. The text is saying, the library is safe, even if the building is burning down.
That's a perfect way to put it. The essence is secure.
Which brings us to the moment the building actually does burn down. Death.
The great interruption.
The text is fascinatingly clinical about death. It's not poetic or sentimental. It lists 3 kinds. And I honestly didn't know you could categorize death like this.
It separates the mechanics of dissolution. It's very precise. First, there is spiritual death.
This is the soul bankruptcy we talked about earlier, the extinction.
Right. If a human being becomes so identified with evil, so dedicated to selfishness, that the adjuster can no longer stay, the adjuster departs. The person might still be walking around, eating, talking, but cosmically they are already dead. They are a shell.
That's genuine horror movie stuff. A body without a pilot.
Then there is intellectual death. This is when the mind circuits are irretrievably broken through massive brain damage or advanced neurological disease to the point where the will can no longer function.
So the captain is no longer on the bridge.
The captain's gone. The text says in this case the adjuster leaves, but the soul and all the transcripts are perfectly safe. The life is effectively over, and the person is placed in a sort of cosmic waiting room until the body finally ceases to function.
And finally, the most common one, physical death.
The cessation of life function. The heart stops, the brainwaves cease. And here, the text describes a disassembly process that is incredibly detailed.
It's like watching a pit crew strip a car for parts after a race. It's that fast and efficient.
The body returns to the elements, dust to dust. The mind, the physical consciousness, the seat of the ego ceases to exist. It was a temporary mechanism.
But the other parts, they don't just vanish. They scatter.
They scatter to their respective custodians. The soul, that Urantia child you spent your life building, is taken into the custody of a guardian seraphim.
An angel, your personal guardian angel.
Yes. The soul is unconscious at this point. It's essentially in a coma. The seraphim holds it in safekeeping. Meanwhile, the thought adjuster, the pilot, departs immediately for a place called Divinington.
Now, I made a joke earlier about Divinington sounding like a quaint British village, but it's actually a specific sacred sphere, isn't it?
It is described as the bosom of the father for adjusters. It is a central processing hub where they return between assignments, carrying the memory transcripts, the complete identity patterns of the personality they just left.
And what about the personality itself, the director, the actual I?
That is the great mystery. The text is very upfront that we don't fully understand the location or status of personality during this interval. It says personality essentially sleeps or is safeguarded by archangels. It loses the ability to function because it has no mechanism to function through. It's a driver without a car.
So you are literally in pieces. Your soul is with your angel. Your memories are with your adjuster on Divinington. Your personality is in stasis with the archangels.
And this precise, scattered state is why the text is so ruthlessly stripped about the concept of ghosts or communicating with the dead.
It shuts that down hard. No ambiguity.
Absolutely hard.
Yeah.
It argues that a disadjusted soul has no consciousness. It cannot communicate. It cannot haunt a house. It cannot speak through a medium. The dead are asleep. They are absolutely, completely unconscious until the moment of resurrection.
So all the paranormal stuff, seances, ghost hunting.
According to this cosmology, it's either trickery, human psychology, or perhaps some other lower-order spiritual phenomena, but it is not the spirits of your departed loved ones. They are offline. They are in transit.
Okay, so I'm dead. I'm asleep. My parts are scattered across the universe. How do I get put back together again?
We go to the resurrection halls.
Which are located on the mansion worlds.
In my father's house, there are many mansions. The text takes this literally. It describes a series of 7 satellite worlds circling a central sphere in our local system. These are not natural evolved planets. They are architectural worlds.
Architectural, like they were built.
Yeah.
Artificial planets.
Yes. Purpose-built. They are perfectly designed and optimized for the transition from a human state to an early spirit state. And on the first of these mansion worlds, you find the resurrection hall.
Paint the picture for me. What happens there?
It's a grand reassembly operation. Think of it like a cosmic operating room. The guardian seraphim shows up with your soul. The thought adjuster returns from Divinington with your memories. And the universe energy controllers provide a new form.
A new body.
A Urantia body, your first transitional vehicle.
What does a Urantia body look like? Do I look like me?
Yeah.
Will my family recognize me?
The text says you will be recognizable, but you won't be identical. You aren't made of flesh and blood anymore. You don't have a bloodstream. You don't eat in the same way. You don't generate waste. You don't age. But you have form. You have hands, feet, eyes. You occupy space.
And the recognition. The text mentions something really cool called personality recognition.
This is one of my absolute favorite concepts in the book. You know how sometimes you can recognize a close friend or family member just by the sound of their footsteps down the hall or the way they stand before you even see their face?
Totally. It's a vibe, a presence.
The text says that on the mansion worlds, that sense is elevated to a primary mode of perception. You recognize people not primarily by their visual appearance, which has changed, but by the unique frequency or vibration of their personality. The director's style we talked about earlier, it becomes directly perceivable.
So I'll know my grandmother, not because she looks exactly like the 80-year-old woman I remember, but because her presence, her essence is unmistakable.
Exactly. The outer husk is gone, but the inner kernel is right there, shining. And you can perceive it directly.
And when we wake up, do we remember everything? Do we remember the pain of dying?
You remember what the adjuster saved. You remember the survival value stuff.
The highlights reel.
The meaningful reel. You might not remember the password to your old email account. You might not remember the specific ugly details of a trauma that served no ultimate purpose, but you will absolutely remember the lesson you learned from that trauma. You will remember the love you felt for your family. The scaffolding of Earth life is stripped away, leaving the finished building.
It sounds like a purification process. You wake up as the best version of yourself.
You wake up as the real version of yourself, the part that was always eternal, now freed from the temporary, noisy machinery.
Okay, so we've made it. We are on the mansion worlds. We have these cool new Urantia bodies. We are reunited with our friends and family. Is the end of the line? Is this heaven? Do we just sit on clouds and play harps for eternity?
The Urantia Book is, I think, allergic to the idea of static bliss. It views eternity as a career, an endless adventure.
A career. That sounds exhausting. I was kind of hoping for a long vacation.
Well, you get a vacation first. The text actually mentions a period of rest and reunion and just enjoying your new existence. But eventually, for a creature of purpose, boredom would set in. You have that length dimension, the drive to grow, so you go to school.
School. After all that, I have to go back to school.
The mansion worlds are essentially a massive cosmic university. You have to learn the things you failed to learn on Earth. Did you fail to learn patience? You might take a class on patience. Did you fail to learn how to be a good parent? You might go work in the nurseries, helping new arrivals. You are systematically fixing the defects of your mortal life.
It's Remedial Earth 101.
In a way, yes. But the long-term goal, the PhD program, is much, much bigger. We have to talk about fusion.
This is the climax of the whole ascension plan, right?
It is the first grand climax. We talked about how the thought adjuster, the pilot, and the human personality, the captain, are currently two separate entities on the bridge. They communicate, they cooperate, but they are two.
Right. A partnership.
The goal is fusion. There comes a point, maybe on the mansion worlds for some, maybe much further along for others, where the human will becomes so perfectly aligned with the divine will, where the captain and the pilot are so completely in sync that they literally coalesce into one being.
They merge.
They become one single entity. The text calls this the ultimate mystery of making God and man one. The adjuster bestows its infinite past and its eternal existence on you. You bestow your unique, unrepeatable personality and your wealth of experience on it.
And once that happens, once you are fused,
You are eternally safe. You can never fall. You can never become extinct. You have permanently bridged the gap between the finite and the infinite. You have graduated. You become a member of the core of the finality.
the core of the finality. I said it before, but that sounds like the coolest superhero team in existence.
It essentially is. And this brings us to the final and perhaps the most provocative and mind-bending part of this whole deep dive. Why? Why is God doing all this? Why go through the immense trouble of evolving slime into monkeys, monkeys into men, men into spirits, and spirits into these finalators?
It seems like a lot of work if the end goal is just to have us sing in a choir for eternity.
The text hints at a destiny that is absolutely staggering. It talks about outer space.
Outer space, you mean?
Yeah.
Beyond our galaxy, beyond the universe we know now.
Yes. The text distinguishes between the grand universe, which is the currently inhabited, organized part of creation, and the master universe, which includes vast, uninhabited galaxies and superuniverses that are currently forming in the depths of outer space.
The new cosmic construction zones.
Billions of new universes just beginning to organize, and the text poses a question. Who is going to run them? Who is going to administer them? Who will guide the new life that will eventually evolve there?
You can't just put perfect angels in charge.
Why not?
Because angels, by definition, have never experienced the struggle. They don't know what it's like to be imperfect, to be tempted, to fail.
But we do.
We do. We are the lowest creatures who climb the entire ladder to the top.
Yeah.
We know every single step of the suffering, the doubt, the fear, and the overcoming. We have the experience.
Yeah.
So we're being trained.
We, the core of the finality, are being trained to be the administrators, the parents, and the loving guides for the future universes of outer space.
That completely flips the script on suffering, doesn't it?
It does. It suggests that your struggles right now, your battle with anxiety, your grief over a loss, your moral dilemmas are not just tests to see if you are a good person. They are curriculum.
Oh.
You are learning the specific experiential skills you will need for a job that won't even start for 1 billion years.
It's a cosmic internship. Every bad day is a lesson.
It's what the text calls the romance of the universe, the great adventure of taking the lowest creature and making them partners with the highest creator in the administration of future creations.
That is. Well, it gives a lot of dignity to a bad Tuesday, doesn't it?
It infuses every single moment with potential meaning. Nothing is wasted.
So we've covered a massive amount of ground here. We've gone from the definition of personality, to the weaving of the soul, to the mechanics of death, and finally to the destiny of the finalators in outer space.
It's a huge, huge arc.
But I want to bring it all the way back to right now, to this moment, because most of our listeners aren't dead yet. They're currently sitting at the loom. They're currently the captains on the bridge.
Yes, the choices are being made now.
The text puts a huge emphasis on the inner life. It says personality is creative, but only in the inner life.
That's a crucial distinction for mental health even. We cannot control the external world. You can't control the economy or the traffic or what your boss says to you. If you try to build your identity on those external things, you will be unstable and constantly unhappy.
Because those things have no survival value. They're just scaffolding.
Right. But you have absolute 100% sovereignty over your inner attitude. You decide how to interpret the traffic jam. You decide whether to respond to your boss with hate or with patience. That inner choice is the shuttle on the loom. That's where the soul is woven.
And the text mentions a civil war that rages inside us.
The war between the flesh and the spirit, between the vertical depth and the length. And I want to make sure every single listener hears this next part. That war is not a sign of failure.
Say that again. That's important.
The conflict you feel, that tension between your animal instincts and your spiritual ideals, is not a sign that you are broken. It is a sign that you are evolving.
It's proof of life.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Animals don't worry about being good. Angels don't worry about being bad. Only humans live in that struggle. That struggle is the evidence of the two natures working it out. It's the engine of growth.
So anxiety, in this context, is basically growing pains.
It's the friction of the loom. If there's no friction, you aren't weaving anything.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
And happiness, true, lasting happiness, comes from what the text calls personality integration. It comes when the captain finally gets the crew to work together. When you can say to your vertical depth, your instincts, I hear you, I respect you, but we are going this way. And you align your ship with the pilot's guidance. That unity is what creates the peace that passes all understanding.
And that leads to the final thought I want to leave everyone with today. It's an idea from the text that it really stopped me in my tracks.
Oh, which one? There's so many.
The text lists all the things God has given us. He gave us our body, the machine. He gave us our mind, the loom. He gave us our personality, the director. He even gave us the adjuster, which is a literal piece of himself.
It's all a gift. We haven't earned any of it. We own none of it.
So the question arises, what can we possibly give back to God? If he owns all the hardware and all the software, what we have that is truly ours to give?
There is only one thing.
Our will. The text says the only thing in the entire universe that God does not strictly control is our free will choice. He voluntarily stepped back to give us that sacred space. So when we choose to align our will with his, when we, the captain, finally say to the pilot, your will be done, we're giving him the only thing in the universe that he doesn't already have.
It is the only possible gift from the creature to the creator.
And that reframes the whole idea of obedience from a chore or a duty into a gift. It becomes the ultimate act of love.
And it's the act that weaves the soul, that builds the bridge to eternity.
So the question for you listening today is simple, but it's huge. If you are being trained for a universe that doesn't exist yet, what class are you in right now? And that frustration you're feeling today, is it just a hassle or is it part of the curriculum for your eternal job?
Keep weaving.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the architecture of eternity. It's been a wild ride.
Always a pleasure.
We'll see you in the next deep dive.
Or in the resurrection hall.
Deal. Take care, everyone.